Hello everyone. It's peculiar times brought upon us by COVID-19 across the globe and engaging the war with non-conventional weapons. The lives of Nigerians need to be positively touched in a different kind of way, which is well up the alley of the National Oil Company. NNPC is galvanizing the sector to donating medical equipment, consumables, and money. And this gesture is not lost on Nigerians, particularly now the corporation is pleading with law enforcement agencies to allow tanker drivers operate during the lockdown, even as the loading depots are to remain operational while the lockdown lasts. At the center stage of our discourse is a holistic look at the industry's collective efforts in rising to the occasion in engaging the fight against the pandemic. We also have our regular segment. Thanks for joining us. My name is Akin Agbejile. This is Oil and Gas Forum.
We've received intervention, but not as huge or as large as this. All we can say, well done, NNPC.
NNPC Retail Limited station remain operational throughout the period of the lockdown to meet the energy needs of the consumers. All the outlets of the company also have sufficient petroleum products. NNPC management commends petroleum tanker drivers for their sacrifice ferrying petroleum products across the country. The tanker drivers' selfless service has ensured smooth distribution of products nationwide. Similarly, NNPC appreciates all the state governors and security agencies for granting free movement to the tanker drivers during the lockdown. NNPC assures that the NNPC Retail Limited stations remain open to avoid any shock in the supply and distribution of petroleum products. Please do not engage in panic buying of petroleum products. Announcer Dr. Kenny Obateru, Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, NNPC.
The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timi Silva, has handed over 5 ambulances to Secretary to the Government of the Federation, cum Chairman of the Presidential Task Force for the Control of Coronavirus COVID-19, Boss Mustapha. The ambulances marked the first installment of industry collective donation of 11 billion naira, now shored up to 21 billion naira. ITO Exploration and Production Company Limited, an NNPC joint venture company partner, donated the ambulances. Handing over the ambulances to Mustapha, the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources stated at the ceremony that the prevailing time was far from being normal, saying it was a time that called for collective efforts.
The oil industry, under the leadership of NNPC, has come together to contribute their quota to the solution of the problem of COVID-19.
Responding, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mustapha, applauded the NNPC and the entire oil and gas industry for the maximum support extended to the federal government in the campaign against the pandemic.
We are eternally grateful to these organizations and their partners for bringing this. And I believe that in the next 2 weeks, we will come here and look at it and ensure that it is fit for use.
Conducting the 2 top government officials round the 190-bed facility donated by the petroleum industry. Malam Kyari stated that this day dome, Abuja, that will house the bed spaces was donated by yet another of NNPC partners, the Sahara Group. He said other NNPC's partners, local and international, continue to implement projects capable of lasting impact in their host communities as well as across the nation's geographical zone, describing the feat as a hallmark of good corporate citizenship.
SGF is here to make spot assessment of the status of this facility, which is going to house 190 beds, and is being supported particularly by CECC, the construction company that we all know, and also supported by the industry, the private sector, the energy group, and all of us to make sure that this works.
At an NNPC property in Utako district of Abuja, Malam Kyari announced that the corporation had set aside a 60-bed capacity facility for the property to support the fight against the pandemic. The NNPC GMD said the facility located in the heart of Abuja will equally be ready in the next 2 weeks. He explained that the Utako facility will be equipped with oxygen generating plants, ventilators, and other medical logistics that will support the federal government's ongoing fight against the spread of coronavirus pandemic, saying that it has 10 intensive care units that will serve as backup to the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital Isolation Unit in Gwagwalada.
The wing that will accommodate the COVID patient will be ready in 2 weeks. So that means that we can actually accommodate up to 60 people in this place in addition to what you have just seen.
President Muhammadu Buhari acknowledges with deep appreciation the kind gesture of captains of industries, corporate entities, missionaries, musical artists, and individuals who have consistently supported ongoing efforts to mitigate COVID-19 pandemic, which is ravaging the global economy. The president thanks a group of oil companies who partnered with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) to donate $30 million, while appreciating contributions from All Progressives Congress national leader Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, Modupe Ola and Folorunso Alakija of Famfa Oil, and Dr. Emeka Offor, who joined a list of other public-spirited Nigerians in contributing health and educational facilities. The president welcomes generous donations as announced by Zenith Bank PLC, which was committed to the public health care system, Keystone Bank, First Bank PLC, and senior pastor of Dunamis International Gospel Center, Dr. Paul Enenche, and his wife, Dr. Becky Enenche, who also took to the streets to sensitize citizens on the dreaded virus.
But these are sacrifices we should all be willing and ready to make for the greater good of our country. In Nigeria's fight against COVID-19, there is no such thing as an overreaction.
President Buhari appreciates the efforts of Stallion Empowerment Initiative of the Stallion Group and the entertainment industry, particularly renowned musician Innocent Idibia, Two-Face, for contributions.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has explained the circumstances of the reported COVID-19 infected individual at an apartment in the NNPC estate in the Garki area of Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. NNPC dismissed insinuation of mass outbreak of coronavirus infection in the facility, saying the national oil company had taken all necessary measures to tackle the singular case, which for now has remained an isolated incident. The corporation explained that the said case involving a non-member of staff of the corporation had to do with the individual who had just returned from the United Kingdom and developed symptoms of the disease. His case was said to have been confirmed positive by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC) after undergoing the lab test. The corporation informed that, in line with NCDC-approved protocol, all residents of the affected apartments were moved out and placed in isolation, while officials of NCDC undertook comprehensive fumigation of the flat and adjoining areas to eliminate the chances of community infection. The NNPC said it was working closely with the residents of the estate to ensure strict adherence to the all NCDC prescribed safety measures designed to tackle the COVID-19 global pandemic.
The Management of Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) wishes to inform the general public that it is receiving unprecedented support from the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), led by the GMD Malam Mele Kyari and COO Gas and Power Yusuf Usman, in resolving the issue of gas availability in thermal power plants, and this has significantly improved supply of gas to generating plants nationwide. TCN management, led by the MD CEO UG Mohammed, wishes to express its appreciation to the management of NNPC, generation companies, distribution companies, TCN staff on their duty posts nationwide, and other sector players for the effort in sustaining the grid during this trying period.
The management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has commended Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State for his timely intervention, which has resulted in the smooth distribution of petroleum products to Rivers and other neighboring states. The managing director of the Petroleum Products Marketing Company PPMC, Mr. Musa Lawan, said that Governor Wike's intervention by way of relaxing the stay-at-home order as it affected petroleum tanker drivers went a long way in restoring normalcy to the fuel supply and distribution system in Rivers State and environs.
I'd like to seize this opportunity to thank His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Rivers State, Chief Nyesom Wike, for personally intervening. He and his team intervened to make sure that the gridlock is resolved. So as we speak, tankers are now able to go in and out of Port Harcourt to load products and deliver to neighboring states.
He said the management of the NNPC under the leadership of the Group Managing Director, Malam Mele Kyari, was appreciative of initiatives like that and appealed to other governors to rapidly intervene in such situations to avoid shocks in the fuel distribution and supply system across the country. Meanwhile, in its bid to ensure that the presidential directive on the lockdown of some states is adhered without concerns about availability of petroleum products, the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has announced the activation of measures to guarantee seamless distribution of fuel across the country throughout the period of the lockdown and beyond.
We have about 2.67 billion liters that it's both on marine and in our depots. So we have sufficient petroleum products to last us at least 60 days.
The PPMC boss appealed to motorists and other consumers of petroleum products not to engage in hoarding or panic buying of petrol, noting that the corporation was ready to provide enough products across the country.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) has commended petroleum tanker drivers for their sacrifice ferrying petroleum products across the nook and cranny of the country. A release by the corporation's Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Dr. Kenny Obateru, has said. The release stated that the tanker drivers' selfless service during the lockdown had ensured smooth distribution of petroleum products during the restriction period. It quoted the managing director of the NNPC Retail Limited, Sir Billy Okoye, as saying that NNPC Retail Limited's filling stations, numbering more than 600, across the country are to remain operational throughout the period of the lockdown to meet the energy needs of Nigerians.
We have enough products in our storage tanks, and we have a lot of products on transit to our stations. We equally have a lot of products siding in our depots, various depots. So Nigerians don't need to panic. We are here to serve Nigerians. We are here for Nigerians.
The NNPC Retail Limited's helmsman, on behalf of NNPC management, thanked the various state governors for allowing petroleum tankers to crisscross their states despite the movement restriction order and commended the security agencies, petroleum tanker drivers, Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, and all other service providers in the downstream value chain for their support.
The state governments have come out in full support of NNPC. They have come out to show that they care for Nigerians. They have been able to allow tankers carrying petroleum products to pass through their states. They have allowed our workers to go to work. They've given access to our station attendants, to our dealers, to go to work and be able to serve Nigerians.
The Nigeria Petroleum Development Company (NPDC), an upstream subsidiary of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), has donated personal protective and medical equipment worth millions of naira to the Edo State government in support of the fight against COVID-19 in the state. The items donated by the NPDC, which has its headquarters in Benin City, includes 166 cartons of hand sanitizers, 83 cartons of hand wash, and 100 sets of personal protective equipment. The managing director of NPDC, Engineer Mansour Sambo, who was represented by Mr. Dahiru Abubakar, Manager Community Relations NPDC, presented the items to the state government.
This is a corporate social responsibility that MPDC management thought it wise to make available to the Edo State government in its efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19.
Receiving the items, the Deputy Governor and Chairman Edo COVID-19 Response Committee, Mr. Philip Shaibu, expressed gratitude to the company for the gesture.
What we have done this morning is part of those efforts that will help to deal and stop or destroy COVID-19, not only in our state, but in the country at large.
Here is a public service announcement. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) hereby appeals to all law enforcement agencies across the country to allow petroleum products tanker drivers free movement during the lockdown ordered in parts of the country by President Muhammadu Buhari and some state governments. NNPC brings to the notice of the law enforcement agencies that the exemption granted by Mr. President to certain categories of essential workers covers the operations of petroleum products tanker drivers. The federal government counts on the support of the law enforcement agencies across the country to ensure smooth distribution of petroleum products across the nook and cranny of the country during the period of restriction. NNPC holds over 2.6 billion liters of petrol, enough to last the period of the lockdown and beyond, advising that motorists should not engage in panic buying. Announcer Dr. Kenny Obateru, Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation.
%80 of our youths that are working today are engaged by MPDC and MPDC contractors. Most of the elders are working also with MPDC. Scholarship, most of our children are being engaged, are being given scholarship.
NNPC, we touch your lives in many positive ways.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of the feedback segment. My name is Julia Auta. Over the years, the nation crude and petroleum product pipelines that passes through so many towns and communities have been vandalized. This illegal act of pipeline vandalism have led to loss of lives, property, pollution of the environment, pollution of water, destruction of aquatic beings, and loss of revenue to the nation. It is against this background that our roving camera on the streets sought to find out from the public the dangers of vandalizing petroleum products pipelines.
My advice to those guys, may they calm down. Vandalize is not a solution.
Anybody with sanity should not do that. Anybody who reasons well should not go there.
It may cause harm to the individuals or the citizen occupying that place. In most cases, it caught on fire with maybe fire explosion.
I want to say to every Nigerian not to be part of such. And if you see anybody vandalizing any of the infrastructure, please report to the security operative.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) is calling on you to always report any act or cases of pipeline vandalism to the appropriate security agencies to save lives and property. And that's it on this segment. Stay tuned.
Hello and thank you for joining us on this segment of the program. My name is Tola Gugwade. Did you know that Venezuela has the highest crude oil reserves in the world with about 301 billion barrels? Did you know that Saudi Arabia has the second largest crude oil reserves with about 266 billion barrels? Canada has about 170 billion barrel reserves and it's ranked the third in the world. Did you know that Iran has about 158 billion barrels reserves, the fourth in the world? Did you also know that Nigeria has about 37 billion barrels reserves and is the second largest in Africa and the 10th in the world? Now you know. Please stay tuned for the rest of the program.
Hello and welcome to Global Crude Oil Outlook. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC and its allies are working on a deal for an unprecedented oil production cut equivalent to around 10% of worldwide supply in what they expect will be a global effort, including the United States, but the White House did not make such a commitment after a Friday meeting with oil companies. Oil prices recovered from the lows of $20 per barrel, with Brent settling at $34.11 per barrel on Friday, but far below the $66 closing level at the end of 2019. The oil market has crashed, with prices falling to $34 per barrel from $65 in the beginning of the year as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Fuel demand has dropped by roughly a third, or 30 million barrels per day, as billions of people worldwide restrict their movement. A global deal to reduce production by as much as 10 million to 15 million barrels per day will require participation from nations that do not exert state control over output, including the United States, now the world's largest producer of crude. A meeting of OPEC and allies such as Russia has been scheduled for April 6, but details were thin on the exact distribution of production cuts. Prices plunged in early March after Russia and Saudi Arabia could not come to an agreement to curb output. The Saudis shocked the oil industry with an aggressive series of steps to take back market share and included cutting export prices, pumping at maximum production, and trying to sell cheaper oil to refiners that buy Russian crude. The oil market was dealt a heavy blow by the free fall in demand due to the coronavirus pandemic, which sends crude prices to their lowest levels since 2002. The oil price crash spurred regulators in the U.S. state of Texas, the heart of the country's oil production, to consider regulating output for the first time in nearly 50 years. Major global producers have already scaled back production as fuel demand has dropped precipitously and storage is rapidly filling. This past week, U.S. drillers idled more rigs in 1 week than at any time in the last 5 years. Thanks for watching. I am Owigo Okolo.
Federal government should continue doing the good work, and NNPC also should continue doing the good work. We are happy.
My brother, my sister, make we join the hand to stop pipeline and vandalization. When no dey allow government to build the road, hospital, provide light, build the school, and make Nigeria be like big country. Make we dey fight the pipeline and vandalization. Make our country come better for we and we children. Now me and you go stop this wahala. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Make our country come better for we and we children. Make we dey fight this yama yama, fight this yama yama. Make our country come better for we and we children.
This message now from Public Affairs Division of NNPC.
Those efforts in the COVID-19 fight and palliatives like the reduced petrol pump price, which is now 123 naira 50 kobo, are sure to continue and further deepened in the coming days. But hey, these are tough times and NNPC is asking you to do the needful. Keep safe, stay safe, and be safe. We got a date to keep next week.